welcome to our series on how to stand up paddle with Blue Planet Surf. Today we're going to talk about board handling and gear. So when you get the board off your car and you set it on the sand, is it best to have the bottom down, or like when I go to the beach, I always had the fins facing up because I didn't want to damage, but I still actually don't know.
Okay, so because on this board, because it has the darker deck pad, it's definitely a good idea to store it upside down, because basically this will get pretty hot in the sun and obviously you want to always leave it in the shade. And if you can, and then put it with the deck side down. This side is lighter color, so it's going to stay cooler. And the heat is like the enemy of the board, so you don't want to just leave your board cooking in the sun all day. It's not good for your board. So leave it in the shade and leave it bottom up if it's going to be out for a long time, But if it's in the shade, you can have it either way. One thing, if the board is wet and you put it upside down, the pad's going to have all the sand stuck on it then, and then you have to flip it around and wash it off when you get back in the water. So okay, so if you put your board down like this, you just want to make sure nobody steps or jumps around on it. Like when we were demonstrating here, we actually took the center fin off just so that it wouldn't put a lot of strain on the fin. If you have a big center fin here and you lay it down and then you stand on the board, or you have kids jumping around on the board, you're going to break that box. It puts too much strain on the fin. It's not made for that. It's made for handling the water, but not heavy weight on the sand. So you want to make sure that if it's like this, no heavy weight on the board. So just avoid heat, and especially if you have a darker board, don't leave it in the sun. Okay, and then also inside a board bag, sometimes people are like, oh, I'll just put it in a board bag and it's safe. But sometimes the board bag is actually like an oven. It's like enclosed. You want to leave the zipper open a little bit so a little bit of air can breathe.
So I think we're about to head in the water. How do I pick it up? What's the proper technique for picking up your board from the sand and carrying it to the water?
Okay, so you have to carry it into the water, also coming back out. I'm going to demonstrate it real quick, and then you can try it. Basically, you always want to try to get the board up on the rail first, even in the water. Our handles have this grip, so you can actually lift them straight up, but that's hard on your lower back, So the better way to do it is lift it up on the rail first, and then once you have it here, then it's easy to grab it, bend your knees, keep your back straight, and then just stand up with the board. And then you carry it down to the water. On a windy day, you kind of want to have your board either down on your downwind side, because then the wind pushes it that way, it kind of lifts up the board, or pointed straight into the wind. What you want to avoid is having it like the wind pushing you this way, because then it's going to kind of push you down, and it's much harder to carry it that way. And getting back out, same thing. You lift it up on the rail first and then carry it. So why don't you give that a try?
Okay. So I'm going to put it on the rail.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my hand in the handle and then pick it.
Yeah.
Right. Do that and then do this.
Yeah, or you can grab your paddle. Yeah, get it on the rail first and then grab your paddle and then lift it.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Cool.
So paddle in one hand,
go.
board in the other hand, you're good to go. What you can do too is maybe set it down again. I'll show you another way. Sometimes if you're getting out of the water and you don't want your paddle to float away, what I do sometimes too is just I lay the paddle right on top of the handle, and then I kind of lift the rail with one hand, and I got my hand kind of wrapped around the paddle too. So then I could got the paddle and the board in the same hand. And my hands are big, so it might be a little bit harder for you to do, but
let's try.
Give it a try, see if that works for you. It's a good technique too.
Because it gets rested in, it's like a little holder.
Yeah, and especially if there's shore break or something, you want to get out of the water quickly, that's a good way to do it.
So Robert, I'm just starting to paddleboard. I bought this board, which is a Nalu. It's a 9.6 board, but in general terms, how do you know what size is the right size for you?
Okay, good question. Obviously you did a lot of research and trying different boards before you bought this board, so you kind of know, okay, I'm able to balance this. This is actually a pretty small board for a beginner, Usually I would recommend starting with something bigger, more stable. And obviously the wider the board is the width, the more stable it's going to be side to side. And a longer board will also be more stable front to back and glide better and be a little bit faster and track better. So shorter and narrower is definitely more challenging, So, but you did it right. You tried a few boards, and then you got something that's a little bit challenging at first, so your balance improves quickly when you have something that's not too easy to balance on, So you're pretty petite and light, so you don't need a super wide, thick board, someone that's 250 pounds. they definitely need a bigger, wider, more stable board, you know, and also taller. Your center of gravity is higher. Like I'm taller, so I need a when I started, I needed a bigger board. I wouldn't have been able to balance on a board like this right away. But your balance improves quickly, so just you don't want something that's too big and stable either. Okay, so the best thing to do is always try a bunch of boards before you try them on. At Blue Planet, we have a rental program where you can get a full credit towards a purchase if you rent boards. We also have free demos at the beach right here at Alamona, actually. So that's really the best way to try a bunch of boards and see what you can just barely paddle on, or something that's a little bit challenging at first, so because your balance will improve, and so you don't want to get a board that's too stable right from the bat. And then every board has dimensions on it, so there's a length, the width, thickness, and volume. Those are what's printed on the board. So probably the most important number is the width. Like if you can paddle on a 34-inch wide board, you know, don't try to paddle on a 26-inch wide board, because it's definitely going to be a lot more tippy. So the width is really important, and then the volume is also important for your body weight. You know, the heavier you are, the more volume you need to float your body weight, basically. And we do have a lot of charts and videos on that as well, so you know, can do some more research on that.
Cool. And before I bought this board, I actually went to the free clinic, and I did try all kinds of different boards, even like the really narrow ones, the smaller ones, just to get a feel for, you know, what I'm in for. And you know, after trying about 6 different boards, I bought another. So
yeah,
awesome. I love it.
Excellent choice. Yeah, and then also people, you know, often ask, like, you know, what about race boards? What about inflatable boards? And you know, they all have like advantages and disadvantages. So really, the best way to find out what they are is to try it. You know, it's hard to explain it in words. I mean, obviously we can explain the differences, but until you try it, it's really hard to know, you know, which one's going to be the right one for you. And you know, like for a lot of women too, like we were talking about, is you know, just carrying the board, being able to load it by yourself, the weight of the board and the size and convenience, that's a big factor too, you know. But at the same time, you shouldn't buy a board just because it fits in your car or fits in the elevator. Sometimes you get people, you know, I need a board that's less than 8 feet long so I can put it in my elevator. And it's like, well, you know, it's like, really you need a board that you can paddle on first, and then if it fits in the elevator, that's great. But you know, if you buy it and it fits in your elevator, but you can't paddle it, then it's useless. Right? It's like buying shoes that don't fit your feet, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to wear them, even though they look nice or whatever. But you know, they have to be comfortable on your feet, right? So that's the same thing for stand-up paddling.
Yeah. And ladies, don't buy a board just for its style. I mean, I know this is pink and I love it, but you know, when I was starting to look at boards, I was like, I want a cute board. I want to look good when I'm paddling and stuff like that. But that shouldn't be your first on the list, because all of those other things are much more important, especially when you're beginning. You know, choosing a paddleboard, I look at it as the same way as buying a car. You know, you go and test drive the different cars and you see what fits you best. Everybody has a different driving style, at least for, you know, racing and everyday driving. They're looking for, you know, if you're going to the beach a lot, you might want an SUV, things like that. For this board, I chose this board because it's a good all-around board for what I'm going to be doing, going out maybe as often as possible just to get exercise. I'm not planning on catching that many waves or carving out waves, but eventually I think I'm gonna get to that, and I think this will help me ease into that as well. So that's how I chose this board, and you know, just like buying a car. Thanks for watching this episode on how to choose a board. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and we'll have a new video posted every week. Aloha!
Aloha!